wonder what happened to those incredible bands that seemed destined for stardom but suddenly disappeared? You've heard the Beatles and Rolling Stones, but what about those talented groups that created amazing music only to fade into obscurity? And why don't we remember them, despite their undeniable talent? The 1960s music scene was a goldmine of creativity where countless bands emerged with unique sounds and captivating performances. While some rose to legendary status, others mysteriously vanished despite their incredible potential. Today, we're diving into the fascinating stories of 10 forgotten 60s bands that created brilliant music but somehow slipped through the cracks of music history, leaving barely a trace behind. Our first vanished act is the Misunderstood. A band that combined blues rock with early psychedelic elements in ways that predated many more famous groups. Formed in Riverside, California in 1963, they relocated to London at the urging of BBC radio DJ John Peel, who called them the group that changed my life. Their pioneering use of steel guitar in a rock context created a sound decades ahead of its time. Despite recording several brilliant singles like I Can Take You to the Sun, the band's momentum was shattered when lead vocalist Rick Brown received a Vietnam draft notice in 1966. Forced to return to America to avoid jail time, his departure effectively ended the group's trajectory just as they were gaining traction. Their handful of recordings reveal a band that might have rivaled Pink Floyd had circumstances been different. The Smoke represents another tantalizing what-if story from the era.
I've heard them say before to live just like you're dying, yeah. Wish I could say that's how I am, but I've been lying, yeah.
This London quartet released My Friend Jack in 1967, a psychedelic masterpiece that perfectly captured the period's experimental spirit. The song became a substantial hit in Europe, particularly in Germany, where it reached number 2. However, the band's momentum in their native UK was crippled when the BBC banned the song due to perceived drug references. Despite recording an impressive album titled It's Smoke Time, distribution problems and management issues prevented them from capitalizing on their European success. By 1970, they had dissolved, leaving behind only a small catalog of work that psychedelic aficionados now treasure as lost classics. Perhaps no forgotten band exemplifies squandered potential more than the creation. With their aggressive proto-punk sound and innovative techniques, guitarist Eddie Phillips famously played his instrument with a violin bow before Jimmy Page adopted the technique. They seemed poised for breakthrough success. Their single, Making Time, embodied the swaggering confidence of swinging London. Yet internal conflicts led to constant lineup changes, with Phillips departing at a crucial moment. Despite creating several brilliant singles including Painter Man, they never achieved the stability needed for sustained success. Though they've gained posthumous recognition, their music prominently featured in Wes Anderson's Rushmore. In their time, they remain criminally overlooked. Few stories are as bittersweet as that of Kaleidoscope UK.
Cross a line, but ever since that day.
This London-based psychedelic folk group created intricate, whimsical soundscapes on albums like Tangerine Dream, 1967, and Faintly Blowing, 1969, that blended Eastern influences, poetry, and fantastical storytelling. Their work represents some of the most imaginative music of the psychedelic era, with songs like Flight from Ashia taking listeners on transportive sonic journeys. However, their refusal to conform to commercial expectations and their label's inability to market their unique sound resulted in poor sales. Despite critical appreciation, they disbanded in 1970, with members moving into session work. Today, collectors pay hundreds of dollars for original copies of their albums, but mainstream recognition continues to elude them. The story of the Golden Dawn is particularly mysterious.
Running through my mind, that you're not my kind.
Named after the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, reflecting the era's occult fascinations, this Texas psychedelic band released just one album, Power Plant, in 1968. The record is now considered a masterpiece of acid rock, featuring swirling organs, fuzzed-out guitars, and cosmic lyrics typical of the genre's best offerings. Despite its quality, the album sold poorly upon release, allegedly moving fewer than 1,000 copies. The band quickly disbanded, with members seemingly vanishing from the music scene entirely. The album's rarity contributed to its mystique, and original copies now command astronomical prices among collectors. Yet outside a small circle of psychedelic enthusiasts, the Golden Dawn remains virtually unknown. The United States of America deserves special mention for their pioneering electronic approach.
Into the country, I'm gonna eat a lot of peaches. Peaches!
Led by composer Joseph Byrd and vocalist Dorothy Moskowitz, this experimental group incorporated early synthesizers, electronic effects, and avant-garde techniques into rock structures. Their self-titled 1968 album stands as a revolutionary document that bridged the gap between art music and rock. Songs like The Garden of Earthly Delights featured electronic sounds rarely heard in popular music of the time. Despite creating such forward-thinking music, personality conflicts tore the band apart after just one album. The members scattered to various projects, and their groundbreaking work went largely unnoticed until decades later when electronic music historians recognized them as important precursors to later electronic genres. From Scotland came The Writing on the Wall, whose sole album, The Power of the Picks, 1969,
that haunt me from
blended hard rock with progressive tendencies and Celtic influences years before such combinations became more common. Despite powerful vocals from Lenny Patterson and impressive instrumental prowess, the band struggled to gain traction beyond a devoted Scottish following. Distribution problems plagued their album release, and the band's remote location, relative to London's music scene, further hampered their visibility. They disbanded in 1973, leaving behind tantalizing evidence of what might have been a distinctive voice in progressive rock. Few bands were as aptly named as The Human Expression,
To the street, the gift of life is all you.
This Los Angeles outfit created emotionally charged garage rock with psychedelic overtones across just 3 singles released between 1966 and 1967. Their song, Love at Psychedelic Velocity, perfectly captured the frenetic energy of the time with its driving rhythm and distorted guitars. Despite creating compelling music and developing a local following, the band never secured the major label support needed to reach a wider audience. Military draft obligations claimed several members, effectively ending the group before they could record a full album. Their small catalog has since become highly prized by garage rock collectors, but mainstream recognition never materialized. The Deviants represented the edgier, more subversive side of British psychedelia. Led by journalist and cultural provocateur Mick Farren, they combined raw proto-punk aggression with politically charged lyrics that challenge establishment values. Their 3 albums released between 1967 and 1969 offered an unpolished, anarchic alternative to the more whimsical psychedelia of the time. Despite developing a cult following and influencing later punk acts, their confrontational stance and rough production values limited their commercial appeal. When Farren left the group in 1969, the remaining members formed the more successful Pink Fairies, while the Deviants' contributions gradually faded from public memory. Finally, we have the Blossom Toes, whose journey illustrates how even substantial industry support couldn't guarantee longevity. Signed to Giorgio Gomelski's Marmalade label, which also managed early Yardbirds, this British group released the ambitious psychedelic pop album We Are Ever So Clean in 1967. The record showcased sophisticated arrangements and Beatles-influenced harmonies on tracks like What on Earth and Look at Me, I'm You. Despite critical acclaim and significant promotion, the album failed to chart. Their 1969 follow-up, If Only for a Moment, shifted toward a harder progressive rock sound, but fared no better commercially. After a car accident injured 2 members in 1970, the band dissolved, leaving behind 2 remarkable albums that demonstrated their evolution, but failed to find the audience they deserved. What connects these vanished acts wasn't a lack of talent or vision. Indeed, many were creating sounds that would only be fully appreciated decades later. Rather, a perfect storm of bad timing, industry misunderstanding, personnel changes, and simple bad luck denied them the recognition granted to their more fortunate contemporaries. The stories of these forgotten bands remind us that music history is filled with brilliant creators whose work slipped through the cracks. For every Beatles or Doors, countless talented groups created incredible music that time has obscured. These 10 bands represent just the tip of an iceberg of forgotten brilliance from a revolutionary musical decade. What makes these stories particularly compelling is how many of these bands were creating sounds that would only become mainstream years or even decades later. They were visionaries whose innovations went largely unrecognized in their time. If you've connected with any of these forgotten gems, I invite you to dig deeper into their catalogs. Share your discoveries in the comments below. What forgotten 60s bands do you think deserve more recognition? Don't forget to subscribe for more explorations of music's hidden corners and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the shadows of musical history. Until next time, keep listening with open ears. You never know what forgotten treasure you might discover.